Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Nomad CEO Podcast. I'm Kenz, your host. And today I am so pumped to talk to this man. Fred Webster is the real OG. Like this guy, if you have ever wondered, should I leave my corporate job? Should I start a business? Or should I look at a different type of business? And you're going through your brain of how to do that. Why should you do that? All those questions that you can have. This is the guy to listen to. So he is a career ownership coach. And he's actually won an award with that, the Career Ownership Award. And he got the Rising Star Award with the Entrepreneur's Source in 2025. So this man not only has the title, but he has the success to back it up with his clients. So Fred, welcome to the podcast. So glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much, Ken. It's great to be with you.
Yeah, I'm so pumped. Well, let's dive right in because there's so many people that listen to this that are in this position where they're like, man, I need a change in my life and I want to know how to do it. What does a roadmap look like? So could you share in your journey, like what led you to become a career ownership coach and what inspired you to focus on that?
Sure. So I think like many of us, we go through life in a typical pattern where we do what we've been told to do. And there's nothing wrong actually with that method. And what I mean by that is, okay, we go to school, we go get grades, we go to college, we get good grades, we go and we find a job and we work for corporate America. And once upon a time, I think as a Gen Xer, it was like, stay there, work hard, put up with the nonsense, and you get the gold watch someday and you get a pat on the back and they have a retirement party and you have punch and pie and you go off in the sunset and everybody misses you, etc. I think that's changed a little bit. I think COVID changed the relationship between employees and employers. And actually, if I'm being perfectly frank about it, it didn't really change it. It just exposed it. The veneer was removed. Companies used to pretend to care and employees used to pretend to care. And now we just realize that nobody cares. It's a transaction. And that's fine. And that's fine. It's honest, right? You pay me an amount of money that I'm willing to accept. And you get value out of me exceeding that amount that you spent. That's called a profit. And that's how a corporation works. Totally fine. That's capitalism. Love it. Okay. But there comes a time, I think, in everybody's life where we start looking at the corporation saying, why'd they do that? Or I could do that better. And that's definitionally how I like to just in a nutshell say people get stuck. And that's kind of where I was. I got promoted up the ladder. I was in big pharma for like 10 years and I was in big hospital for 14 years. And I kind of got to that point where I was stuck. I was looking around like, where am I going? I'm getting my 2% raise per year. The runway from my job kind of stopped. My boss wasn't helping me get up and around. I tried, but I needed more. And I felt kind of worthless, actually. I reached the end of my runway. And so I started looking outside and I looked in healthcare because that's what I was pigeonholed into, right? I'd been there in 25 years roughly. So I looked at healthcare tech. I looked at healthcare insurance. And what I discovered is after being, almost 50 and working for 25, 30 years in business, I'm like, it's going to be the same stuff, different day. But when I was younger, that same stuff, different day might have been revealed in 5 years. Now it was going to be revealed in 3 months. And so I could leave and be in the same position I was, unhappy, with no juice. So do I stay? Do I leave and hope it gets better? That's kind of where I was. That's how I decided. And a coach from the Entrepreneur Source reached out to me. He had a caller. He found my resume someplace. The caller said, "Hi, Fred, this is so-and-so from the Entrepreneur Source. Would you like to talk about business ownership?" And I was kind of not impressed, to be frank. I'm like, if this is an Amway scheme, I'm not necessarily interested in that. Not that Amway, there's nothing wrong with Amway that people are successful with and they do good work. That's fine. It just was, I'd been there, done that. I didn't want to do it again.
Yep.
And she said, "I can't answer for that. When you talk to one of the coaches?" I said, "Fine, I'll talk to a coach." I was kind of at the bottom, right? I took bottom. And long story less long, I talked to this coach. He was amazing. And he said, "Look, let's just explore business ownership. You've explored W-2. Let's explore business ownership." And lo and behold, 6 months later, I'm like, yes, let's go. And I was going to do real estate management. And it was actually with a different broker who came to me with a franchise opportunity for real estate management. Loved the brand, loved the people I was going to be working with, but I wanted to go to the dance with the guy who brought me. And that was this guy, Dan. I said, "Dan, what else do you have?" And I said, "I'm a connector. I connect people. This is what I've discovered about myself over this. It's what I do. And he said, Fred, that's what I do all day. Do you want to look at what I do? I said, that's a thing? He said, sure. So we did. And I went through that discovery phase in about a month. So I took 6 months, crammed it into a month and said, what am I doing? And then for the first time in my life, I listened to my wife. I love my wife. And normally I'm always right?
I'm going to let you have a solo dialogue on that one there, Fred.
Yeah. And so I said, but you know what? I'm going to give Heather some input on this one. And she said, you're doing the coaching. I said, why? She said, because that's what you like to do. You do the real estate management. I won't get into what I did in my old job necessarily unless we get there, but you're basically doing that right now. And you've been there, done that. You're good at it, but you don't love it. You don't like it. The thing that you like is the coaching of other people. So why don't you do that and just get paid to do it? I said, okay, I'll do it. So that was in September of 23. I left my corporate job on September 28th. That was my last day. Very anticlimactic departure. I'll just say that, which confirmed there was no punch and pie.
I was like, did you get some punch and pie at least?
No, there was no punch. There was no pie. I had my employee had to ask my boss permission to expense donuts. So yeah, it was quite anticlimactic. And so as I walked out the door, it was like the Jerry Maguire moment when he's got the goldfish and he's like, Dorothy Boyd, thank you. And he walked out the door and closed the elevator and everyone went back to work. That was it. And that's what happens everywhere. We just don't want to admit it. So, and again, nothing wrong with corporate America. And this sounds like I'm crapping on corporate. I'm not. It's the way it is. Okay. And we just need to be willing to look, I believe deeply, that the human existence is naturally a business owner. We started that way as hunter-gatherers. We provided for our families on our own. We had our own little small cottage industry called hunting and gathering, right? And some people were better at the hunting and some people were better at the gathering and some people were better at making the arrow and someone was better than shooting the arrow. And maybe somebody made the bow, someone made the string, whatever. Everyone kind of had their specialty. And so we collated these things together into corporations to scale the hunting and the gathering. That's great. Terrific. But what if someone said, I'm glad I've seen all this. I've learned enough about it, but I got my bow, I got my arrow, I got my basket, I got my feet. I'm going to go out on my own because I like this particular meat or I like this particular berry. And I'm going to deliver that to my community better than anybody else. Wow. Can you do it? Yeah. So go try it. And that's what I did. And so that's how I got to be a career ownership coach at the Entrepreneur Source. September 29th, 2023. At the day after I left, I was at a conference with my new business in Florida, learning about different business possibilities. And we'll get into that. But yeah.
Wow. Fred, something I really appreciate about you from the time that I met you, which we talked for like an hour or something.
It went by very quickly.
It did. I was like, we're at a networking event and Scott introduced us and he's like, you guys should meet and chat. And then we're just yapping away for a hot minute. But I say all that because from that conversation to other conversations we've had, I really appreciate how you describe things and you outline things and you're such a great storyteller that I think from you explaining how you went through your journey and the thoughts that you had can really relate to so many people. So I love that. And secondly, I also really appreciate that you're just calling out, hey, we've all known that this was essentially happening, right? We just didn't own it. And now that we can own it, I think people can then make a decision. Am I going to accept it? Am I going to change it? What's going to happen now? So could you walk through, and I have so many questions for you, but just to try to cover all my bases here, could you walk through the time where you were thinking about it, they reached out, and then you're like, okay, I'm really going to leave my job. Like, I'm really going to make the leap. What were some of the thoughts you had, emotions you had? Did you second guess it? Or were you just so at the place of done that you're like, I don't freaking care. I'm going to figure it out.
It's multifocal, but it's a great question. Because of my personality, I am very much a ready, fire, aim type person. So when Dan talk to me about different business possibilities. And frankly, what we do is we talk about, putting out your own shingle, acquiring a business, and franchising. Those are the three big pillars of business ownership that I think are in general out there. You can subslice all of those things, but I'd always had that kind of that curiosity, and I dabbled, but I didn't know in what order to put things. If I have a good idea, how am I going to get clients to me? That was the biggest thing, client acquisition, right? But yes, I thought about being my own boss before, but had been afraid to do it because I didn't know how. And Dan created a structure to kind of look at it, and I chose franchising as my vehicle. But it was because, in looking through that lens, I discovered that unlike going at W-2, at least for me, I know there's a lot of people, they just get offers all the time. Good for them. I talked to a number of clients, hundreds of them, where I put in hundreds of resume applications and I get nothing. So by the time you get an interview, you're like, oh my God, please hire me, before you even have the interview. It's kind of pathetic. I was pathetic, right?
Oh yeah, I've been there.
And so you're like on bended knee to be hired so that you can work for somebody else's dreams. When I went through discovery, I had 7 different franchises in this case looking to partner with me. So I got to be really picky for once. So it was flattering. So maybe that was, bad, right? I could have gotten suckered into something because people are like, oh, we want you. But because it's a two-way street, franchises are awarded, not sold. You don't just go to the franchise store and say, I'll pick one of those. You have to agree to work together. You have to have a plan for funding. There's approval. So it is like a two-way interview. Through that, I said, oh, I'm done with corporate. Like, I want to partner with someone and be working for myself. And that probably took 6 weeks from when I started meeting with Dan. So I was all in. It was a question of what I was going to do, not if I was going to do it.
That's
so
good.
that was, and it was, I can't really describe the epiphany. Part of it's just my personality, but I realized it was going to be a sacrifice. I sold my home and cashed out a ton of equity so I could survive while I ramped up my business. It's not a cakewalk. Nothing's guaranteed, but that's what I felt I had to do. Other people will take out loans, unsecured SBA. Sometimes you can access your retirement income without taking it out of your retirement. That's a really clever strategy that a lot of people don't know about. You actually put your business into your IRA instead of taking money out of your IRA for your business. Kind of a neat thing. I have partners that help with that right here in Boise, actually. And so that's what happened. I quickly realized that for me, the definition of work is being asked to do something that I'm not necessarily interested in doing for the benefit of some disproportionate benefit of somebody else, and at a revenue source for me that's below the value that I gave it. So that's what work is. So as far as I'm concerned, I actually don't work anymore. And I go through that with my clients. They say everyone wants work-life balance, right? What does that mean?
Yeah, right.
We have to define what work is first. And I think what people mostly come to is they don't mean work-life balance. They just mean control over when I work or when I put effort into something. That's what I like to say. I might do something at 11 o'clock at night. My choice. So it's not work because I chose to do it. Someone else didn't ask me. I did. I happen to be remote, so I can be in Mexico. And I got to do something. Well, does that work? No, it's my choice to do something. It's my choice to exert effort. So it's not work by my definition. If someone else made me do it, now it's work. And so corporate America, by definition, is work. It has that tint of negativity to it. But when you own your own business, when you own your career, nothing's work. So it's by definition, it's always balanced.
And I feel that. I have so many questions on that. That's so good. I do have one more question too in that transition, because you mentioned it so well, the reality of being an employee in corporate America, generally speaking, and just what's going on truly, and just the transaction of it. But I'm curious, because that you could call it like the big problem of the, not even philosophical, it's quite real. But did you have any deep internal, my life, I've just invested 25 years.
Great question.
Right. And now my life, is that how I want to live the rest of it? Or do I want to be able to define work for me and live my life that way and I can be in Mexico? Like, what did that internal journey look like in working through?
Again, at the time, I didn't realize how much flexibility I would have. I knew I was going to be working remotely. That actually kind of scared me before, because when I'd ever been able to work from home, like during COVID, I mean, if you were working in an office or a location all the time and suddenly you're able to work at home, are you really working? I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of
what you're doing, you can get away with a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're like, oh crap. And maybe you cram something in late at night, but it's like, do other things. So is that going to be what I do now that I work
Mm,
remotely? It's not, because it's just the nature that I have an obligation to my clients, and
mm,
that's my calendar. And so my calendar kind of determines that I'm not going to be distracted, because I can't
mm,
just blow somebody else off. I have a
mm,
mutual accountability there.
mm,
But that's something I chose, right? I
mm,
implemented it. I'm not a slave to my calendar because I've built the calendar. It's mine. I've
mm,
chosen when I'm going to be working. And it's not even a discipline. It's a mutual obligation. I tell my clients, you need to be, because I don't charge my clients anything. I work off referral fees. And so when they show up, if I say I'm going to be there and they're not there, they've let me down and they're done.
mm,
We have to both be there. We both agree to show up. And if we can't, that's fine. We just need to give each other notice. That's accountability. That's ownership.
mm, mm,
That's owning your stuff,
mm,
right? So
mm,
that was, there wasn't really an epiphany like, oh, I have to work remotely. All the stuff that I was looking at was not remote,
mm,
except for this.
mm.
That just happened to kind of come out as, wow, I don't have to commute anymore. I don't have to own a brick and mortar location. I don't have to pay rent. Wow, that didn't come to the forefront until the end. It was kind of interesting.
That's so, I mean, it's powerful though, the fact that you didn't maybe know what that was going to look like, but you still, would you call it ready, fire, aim?
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, I relate so hard with that. I'm like, I'll
Yeah.
learn from doing, okay? Like, give
Yeah.
me some
Yeah.
data in the doing and then I'll figure
Yeah.
it out. So, which it can be messy, but
Yeah.
at least for me, it's just so good. So, and man, I have so many ways I want to go with this. I do want to, before we go to what you do with clients and how you help lead them through the process, I am curious just in the sense of how you found your spot. Because I would imagine there's going to be people that listen to this that relate a lot with who you are and how you operate. And then there's going to be people that are, because we're all
Yeah.
different, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious, could you share some more of like your upbringing and, what that looked like early
Sure.
childhood experiences that may have shaped your mindset and how you approached work and what that
Yeah.
looks like now?
Yeah, interesting. I'll try to be brief. That's impossible for me to do, as you know. I was raised in a very comfortable home in the suburban Chicago area. My
Mm.
dad and mom were married and fairly late, and I was their first kid, and was an only child for like 10 years, and my brother came along, and so that ruined that one. But
Love you,
um
brother. No.
yeah, but I mean, I'll be very frank. We did not want for anything. We were very privileged and got to go into high school in suburban Chicago. Then I went up to boarding school in Wisconsin, and that was really formative for me because I got away from my parents. My parents are lovely and fantastic, but life was easy. And so to be a little bit more independent, but not fully yet, have that transition into boarding school for my junior and senior year was really good because I got to see what it was like to live with other people, see different walks of life, not just the Shangri-La that was suburban Chicago. And then went to school in Maine where I met my wife. Went to Colby College in Maine, spent my junior year in Edinburgh, and that was formative again, totally living independently. Again, independent is kind of in quotes. I wasn't paying the rent, someone else was, but it was out in the world, right? So I have
Mm,
training, everything's got training wheels, but the training wheels got smaller and smaller, I guess is what,
mm,
along the way. And then I moved out to Seattle. So I made a very big point of being independent from my parents. I said, you've provided for me, you've done everything. Let me go show you what I can do without your coattails. So I was kind of the anti-Nepo baby before
mm.
Nepo baby was a term. And that was hard, but I did. I mean, my first job was selling mailing lists.
Whoa.
For 8.65 an hour, I was an assistant, and then I got promoted to a whopping, 24 grand a year in 1995 for this company selling mailing lists. So I can always say I've done worse for less. But that was a sales job. I migrated from that into what was called a market consultant for Allstate Insurance. So I was in Seattle area, but my territory was Oklahoma. So I'd go to Oklahoma about once a quarter, and I'd meet with agents, and I would convince them, influence them, persuade them to write more of the service line that I was in charge of. And then my mom, who was always, wanting me to do better, et cetera, was like, you should go into pharmaceuticals. Susie's son over here is doing it, making a killing. And I said, okay, why not? And so I really worked very hard to get into pharmaceuticals and got in with a small company and then got into a larger company, GlaxoPharm, big, one of the top five pharmaceutical companies. Did that for a while. I loved it. Really, it was a lot of fun. Liked the people. I liked the science of it. And then got pulled away from that from one of my former pharma bosses. We moved from Seattle, excuse me, to Idaho in 2005 as a transfer. And then shortly after that, my former boss called me and said, hey, I'm starting up a physician relations division of HCA Healthcare, which is this huge, like, I think it's the largest for-profit hospital chain in the country. 5% of all births in the country happen at an HCA hospital. So very prestigious company, very good company, frankly. They do a good job what they do. I think it's really hard to stay in the black in the hospital business because of all the regulation and the payer systems, and they do it. They do a very, very good job and give a good return to shareholders. And he called me in and I was like, wow, great. I get to start something and make it my own. And that was great for about 7 years. And then I got promoted to AVP, had a team of 6 across Idaho and Alaska. That was fun for a while, but then that's where I got stuck. And so that's where in 2023, I was contacted by the Entrepreneur Source and boom, quickly just migrated into business ownership. But my dad had been kind of I wouldn't say an entrepreneur, but an investor in a lot of different things. He was a banker. He had been part of a family bank in Des Plaines, Illinois. That was subsequently sold many, many times, and he cashed out at like 55. But he had a bunch of other side deals with friends and business partners that he had made along the way. And I always kind of admired that risk taking, that side of things. I never understood it, but I admired that. And then I always had people in my neighborhood here in Boise. I'd see these guys like fishing in the middle of the day and they'd go play golf. I'm like, how do you do that? Well, I own my own business. Nice for you. Back in my car, 37-mile drive out to my job every day. So in the back of my mind, I always had this, I will call it envy, which is not a good trait, but that's what it was. And so that always was in the back of my mind. How do I do that? So when I saw this and I was like, I can own my own business now. Here's the vehicle to do that. It's franchising for me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I can do any of these things and be successful. I just have to pick the right one for me. And that's what I did. So again, I failed to use brief terms.
Oh, Fred, you're great. You can talk all day. I can listen to you all day. You have so much depth and wisdom, and I always love hearing people's stories as well, because that was actually something I was curious about, is if your parents are entrepreneurs or if they instilled some of those things. And so hearing that about your dad and seeing that example, and it's so fascinating, that like subconscious to conscious question of what would that look like if I could?
Yeah. Yes.
And
yes.
I think so many people have that, and it's so cool what you do, because you help equip them to find an answer to that question if they're willing to let it surface and like actually bring it to the forefront of their mind.
Yeah.
And I relate to, my dad has always been a small business owner, and he would always tell me growing up, when you work for yourself, you can make more money in less time. And he's the guy that would fish the middle of the day, and we would go take trips. He'd be at my practices, so really instilled a lot. So yeah, now could you talk about what it looks like? Like, let's say I come to you, Fred, and I'm like, Fred, I'm at this corporate job. I need to get out. Oh my gosh, I know that's what I need to do. I maybe have some fear in doing it. What would you do next? Like, how would you walk me through that process?
Well, I think the most important thing, Kenzie, is that when and this may be like the theme of the show, if you will, we really have to start with the end in mind. So I think that's rule number 1 of Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Start with the end in mind. We don't do it. We talked earlier about what do? We go to school, we get a job to pay the bills, rinse and repeat, right? But why? We spend a lot of time figuring out the why. And I'm not talking like your sense of meaning, but like, what's the point? Meaning's part of it, but just in practical terms, what are we trying to get to? If we don't figure that out, then you're going to be on the hamster wheel, aimlessly running in the circle. So that's where we start, is I try to understand what makes my clients tick and what they're trying to get to, so that we can reverse engineer the best way to get there. W-2 might be the way, at least for a little while. Maybe it is buying a business. Maybe it is starting something on your own. Maybe it is a franchise, but maybe it is W-2. Again, as I said, I have no problem with corporate America, but let's choose that. Let's own it. Own your career. Don't be owned by it. I'm a career ownership coach. That is not a tagline that they came up with. That's me. I mean, the career ownership coach is trademarked. I think it's registered now. But owning your career instead of being owned by it, that's my philosophy. And how do you own it? You just take ownership of it. You choose it. You didn't do it because you were supposed to, or that's just what happened and you fell into it. That's what we all do. I'm giving you the opportunity to take a step back and own it. Whatever it is, doesn't matter. But we got to own it. So how do you own it? Well, you got to figure out where you're going and why, and then choose how to get there. So we start with that destination, that goal, that vision. From there, we decide, do we want to talk about entrepreneurship? Some people don't. They're like, no, I'm good. All right. You sure? Okay. Did you choose that, or are you just afraid? Because we're not choosing anything. We're just learning. How do you know? I had one guy, he was really super talented, had been working someplace for a long, long time. And he refused to look at entrepreneurship.
Hmm.
And I said, why? He said, well, it's too risky. I said, how do you know? Well, because it's too risky. I mean, it was a circular argument. And I kind of got frustrated with him. And I said, well, who says that? He says, well, my wife. I said, she's owned a business? No. So she knows it's too risky because she's never done it. Okay. Do you want to get her on the line? Let's talk.
Hmm.
And that was probably the only time I was ever frustrated with a client, because I was like, you are just limiting yourself and you won't own it, right? You're letting your fear make your decision. What is fear? I'll ask you this. What is fear? What are causes of fear, Kens?
I think for a bit, especially in this context, just the unknown,
100%.
lack of control, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the what ifs of, our own insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so many things. That's what comes to mind right now, though.
So when you were a kid, do you
Mhm.
remember being afraid what was under the bed?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Or what about in the closet? I mean, we've all seen Monsters Incorporated, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's a classic example.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
When did you not become afraid of what was under the bed or what was in the closet?
When I looked under the bed and I looked in the closet.
You turned on the light.
Mm.
You were afraid because it was dark. You couldn't see it. There was no way to evaluate what was there. You could look under there and not see anything. Now you're still scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you had to have the courage to get out of bed, go to the light switch and turn it on. Now you can do it. Alexa, turn off the lights, right? Or turn on the lights. You don't even have to see. Yeah.
I was about to say, Sheba. If you're listening, Fred.
Alexa, Mac bedroom on.
His lights just turned
There
off.
we go.
That's great.
Lights. There we go. There's the lights.
Before we jump in, quick note. If you're enjoying the conversations we have here on Nomad CEO, you will love our World Changers weekly newsletter. This is where we share everything that doesn't always make it to the mic. Behind the scenes, on our masterminds, challenges, global retreats, and the movements we're supporting around the world. Plus, every Monday, we send out simple mindset and body tips that you can put into action immediately. If you want to change your world just a little more every single week, you can sign up for free at worldchangers.me/signup. That is worldchangers.me/signup. All right, let's get into today's episode.
And so it's a little easier to be unafraid. But that's what we're doing, is we're just looking at stuff and learning and getting past the fear. If you choose to not do something, that's great. So long as it's because you're doing it out of empowerment based on knowledge, not fear based on ignorance. So all we're doing is creating that vehicle for knowledge in a place where you're not choosing anything, you're just learning about it. So, but that's the first step, is understand what makes you tick and why you're trying to make a change, where you're trying to going, and then evaluating, is what I'm doing going to get me there? Chances are no. So let's look at other ways. You can still look at W-2, fine, but let's compare it to something other than just what you know.
Yeah. I am curious. I do want to talk more about the working for yourself, entrepreneurship, franchising here in a second. I'm curious if you could share maybe a client example or the mindsets that people may be best working as a W-2, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe it's not actually fear, or maybe it is fear, but they're owning it because maybe the dream isn't big enough for them, or whatever the reason might be.
I think it's all about how you're set up. So if you're highly compensated and you don't have a lot of savings, you kind of painted yourself into a box a little bit. That's not to say you couldn't become an entrepreneur, but you're going to have to figure out is my lifestyle supported by this compensation plan, and how am I going to live without that? Unless I can find something to do on the side. But I'll tell you, doing a business on the side doesn't typically grow very fast because it's not paying you money. And I mean, it's just human nature. You're at work. You could be working on your side business, but something comes up at work. You're going to go do that. Why? Because it's paying you. It's you've got the shackles on. So you do really have to take the leap at some point, and you got to have some sort of a net. And if your net isn't big enough to carry you through, then you got to either be okay with that, or you got to maybe change your plan to say, okay, I'm going to do this in a year, 2 years. And in the meantime, I'm going to live like a pauper with my income and just pile money away into savings so that I can survive for that year. It's going to take a year, at least, from starting your business to where you're getting back to where you were. At least that's typical. Maybe it takes 18 months because you got to get clients. It doesn't matter what you do, whether you start a business on your own, whether you buy a business, whether you do a franchise, there's going to be a down period because there's startup time. But the outside is almost always better. either because your lifestyle is better and you have more, you've bought back your freedom, or you're making more money. I made more money and bought back my freedom. It was nice, but it took a little bit of time for sure. So the W-2 for at least a little bit is there. The other one is, I would say you just got, you know, when you see it, and the clients do too, you got to have an ownership mindset. Some people tell me what to do, I will go do it, and I'm satisfied with that. Great. Perfect. That is corporate. That is what you want. Love it for you. I have a client I'm going to be meeting with later this morning. I guarantee you that's where she is. And that's fine. She at least took the risk and got to know a little bit about herself and what drives her and what motivates her. That's the first session that I have with clients, is trying to figure that out and reveal that. They may know it, but now we've codified it. We brought it to the surface. And they walk away with a compendium of knowledge that they can now be more forward and forceful and commanding in their interviews. So again, so they can own their career. They can own the fit. Instead of like hoping someone likes them, they can say, here's what I need. Are you able to do that?
So good. So
everyone comes away with value. But again, not everybody's ready. They don't have the savings, the backing. That's okay. But now they've learned it. Maybe that's plan B in the future. They come back to me.
True. Yeah.
That's those are the people that maybe W-2 is right for them. It's ultimately their choice. As long as they look at the other side, the world out there that is possible, and they choose to stay in W-2, no problem with that for them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so well said. I definitely, I mean, you know, timing can be a factor, but the runway, I know for me, I definitely had a plan, but I was so ignorant on certain factors of running the type of business that I was building, like the back end work, that didn't go as planned. So I also appreciate that you're the person that can walk alongside someone to help ask questions that they don't think to ask. So, okay, now let's transition over. So let's say you are sitting down with someone that's like, this is it. They are at where you were at. So, you know, you mentioned session 1, and then you go into like, what is that typical timeline, the conversations, you know, just as someone's thinking through the next steps.
Timelines are all based on what the client wants. I had a client who I happened to meet up with. He was my first client who went all the way to business ownership. And I just happened to catch him on the day that he had declared to his boss, I'm out and I'm looking for other things. And he was definitely looking at starting a business. So literally it was just completely luck. And he was like, let's go. I got 30 days of paid time basically to figure out my future. Let's make the most of it. So we'd meet twice a week and we would just go, and he almost wanted to go faster, but I have other clients. So, you know, but I worked with him. And so he took probably like 90 days to go from start to finish. Others take a year. I took a long time because I had benchmarks that I needed to hit with work. Again, I'm like, hey, I need to know if I'm going to be making a bonus or not. If I know I'm not going to get the bonus, I'll start earlier. If I know I am going to bonus, I got to leave at the end of the year because it pays out if I stay through December 31st. So there was lots of things. As long as it's on purpose, I don't have a problem with anybody's time. I'll go on their pace. I have a client right now who's saying, I'm going to make a decision at the end of January. We've been working since last March. So it's a little frustrating because I think he could do it faster, but it's not my future. But I still let him know. I'm like, hey, if you did this, you could leave earlier. Is that something you want to consider? Do you want to know more about it? Do you want me to connect you to the right people to make it happen? No, I'm good on my plan. Okay. As long as it's a plan. It's not a feel. Again, own it. Make the choice. Ready is a decision. It's not a feeling. And that's a quote. That's a quote from another coach of mine. His name's Scott Kaiser, so I want to give him credit. That's great. And he may have gotten it from somebody else because I heard it from another. I heard it from a coach's coach. So I don't know where it came from. So whoever said it first, it wasn't me. Is the point? So it's not mine.
I get that. Not even half. Well over half the stuff that comes out of my mouth, I'm like, that sounded good. I'm like, I probably stole that. That's probably heard it, whatever, and think So. Wow. Yeah, that's really, it's something too, Fred, I just have to commend you on. It was even, I think, before we spoke, but I knew who you were because we're in that group setting and we chatted after the meeting. But you had said something of, when I focus on my clients' needs and help them get what they want, then I will get what I want. And I think that might be Zig Ziglar if we're talking about quoting people, but nonetheless, I from that, you know, especially that, and then continue to get to know you from all the conversations we've had, I see you walk that out. And I think especially for someone in your position that could be, you know, walking along this journey with people that they may not have the gumption that you had of like, no, this is what I'm doing. They might be trepidatious
Mhm.
and everything. I just appreciate that because the heart of who's leading you through a big transition really matters.
Mhm.
And you're trustworthy in that. And I really value that.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and it is something I like hearing that because it is a focus of mine, and I wasn't always that way. We at the and this is cultural at the Entrepreneur Source. We talk about the Entrepreneur Source is interesting. We use a lot of, I wouldn't say jargon, but we'll have these catchphrases, and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? I mean, it's like we even the description of the awards I got. I think I talked to you about this. That if you read the description, you're like, that sounds really good. How did we decide on that I did that? Like, what's the
Mm.
metric? There's no description of it. And again, not to get, I don't want to be this political, but there was a reputation of a certain politician who ran for president recently of having word salads in their speeches. And that's kind of what we have descriptions of some of our awards as word salads. It's like they sound
Mm.
fantastic. And you're like, this is great. And you're like, well, what does that mean? And so that was similar to this. So with the thing that we say is we detach from the outcome. Great, I'm going to detach. Huh? What does that mean? And what it means is two things. One, I think you could say that about franchising in general.
Mm.
So this is the weave. I'm going to do the weave. In franchising, if you follow a system, if you trust the system and you do what the system tells you, even if it doesn't make sense right away, and even if you don't see immediate outcome, if you trust the system and you do the steps that they have laid out for you, you're going to be successful more often than not. If you start saying, well, if I do this and I do that, you're going to mess with the system and it's not going to come out the way you hope. How do I know? Because that's the whole point of the franchise. Look at all the people that came before you that did what they're telling you to do that were successful. Why would you do differently? Because you know better? No. So that's franchising in a nutshell. Follow the system, you can do well. It doesn't matter what the system is. It doesn't matter what the industry is. Plug and play, you can do it. And you can become successful. Same thing at the Entrepreneur Source. We have a system. And it gets complicated. It's actually patented. But if you focus on that, which is talking to people, learning about them, earning their trust, introducing them to possibilities, allowing them to learn, inspiring them to take ownership of their career, and not caring where that is, but focusing on that they're choosing their future. That's the outcome. It's not my paycheck. It's not my referral fee. It's not that they start a business. It's not that they buy a business. It's not that they get into a franchise. It's not that they get into W-2. It's that they chose it. That's the win. They found clarity. That's the only mission, not my outcome that you would think. It's the choice that they have chosen their future. That's it. You do that enough times and focus on that authentically. Some of those people will choose things that pay me a fee. Okay, that's a numbers game. There's a guy, I think his name is Myron Gold, and
Yeah, Myron Golden, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, "Do you know when I became successful?" And he's got this huge crowd of people, and he charges $50,000 a lecture, and he's got lovely rings, handsome man, but he's got to be in his 60s or 70s. Like he's got a lot of experience. And he said, "When I became successful," and he looks in the crowd and says, "Do you know when I became successful?" You know what? He said, "It was when I realized this one thing." And he leans in, he says, "I don't care if you buy from me." And that was, I saw that on the TikTok. I went on the line, saw the TikTok, and saw that, and I was like, that is detaching from the outcome. And that's when it clicked. And if you ask every one of my coaches that I'm affiliated with, there's 300 of us so across the country, all the successful ones will tell you that. So that I used to be in sales, and I was hanging every interaction. They got to buy. They didn't all buy, and it was frustrating. It doesn't matter to me. That's it.
So good, man. Yeah, I'm so glad you quoted Myron because I have been in sales. I still do sales, and there's certain things that I feel like when I've done it a long time, like with training, I'm like I will turn more clients away than I take because I just can know the type of client they're going to be or what they're looking for and how I train, how I coach, whatever. And it's like I already know where this would go. Like it's an abundant thing. Like so many people want to pursue better health. Like it doesn't have to be you and me. And I know a lot of people in health, so maybe they're a better fit. And that's such a peaceful place to be.
hmm
But then I think of the last sales role I had. Oh boy, that I feel like I'd commission breast sometimes, right? But I didn't have enough like reps in that. Like it was a new offer. And it's not fun. Like when you're in that place and you're like, oh man, I need to pay my bills. So I hope that you do this thing.
Yeah.
I get like I feel like I need a shower just thinking about it, you know?
I,
It's like not
I think the kids today call that the ick.
the ick. Yeah, the ick for sure.
Yeah.
So, no, I love that. So, could you also map out the benefits of, say, and thank you for outlining a franchise and the system of that, like the benefits of when someone would say pursue a franchise and as
Mhm.
their business versus
Mhm.
maybe when they would start totally from scratch and
Yeah.
build their own?
It's a great question. I actually just had a client that I was working with, and they first of all, they've got to have tremendous drive.
Mm.
You have your own idea, et cetera. Again, I think a ready, fire, aim will, tend to do, if anyone's going to do well in starting their own thing, that's them.
Yeah.
But they gotta have no fear of business development.
Mm.
Going out, shoe leather, calling, salespeople make good startup people. You can't be afraid to go out and ask for business. If that
Mm.
is not you, you just
Mm.
have a portfolio of work and you hope that people notice you. And like, well, I have a website. Not saying it can't be done.
Mm.
It'll take a while.
Mm-hmm.
And give an example. My wife's a photographer, great photographer. She started it as a hobby that paid for itself and now earns a pretty decent income.
Mm.
It took her a long time to get there. Why? She doesn't have that killer instinct. She's a
Mm.
networker. Well, now she's networked so beautifully. It's like she's the go-to for business. So she's got all referral business,
Mm.
right? She doesn't have to go and ask for it. She's not doing that. But didn't start out that way.
Mm.
And she didn't know how to price things and get revenue, and it was fun money, and that was fine
Mm.
because I was working and took care of the major revenue for the household. But that just took so much time. So when you get into a franchise, what you're doing is you're taking that time and compressing it because the system's already there, et cetera. And so you just pay for that time. And
Mm.
actually, when you think about it, it's expensed that way. So for those who don't know, you hear about franchise fees. That's a one-time thing. It's like a startup fee. It's like a license. And the way the IRS looks at it too is the same way. It gets amortized over the period of the term of the franchise. So let's say it's 10 years and you pay $50,000. So that you get to write off $5,000 a year as an amortized expense. If you don't know what that means, go look it up. I don't want to get into it. But basically you paid for it once, but you're billing it back to yourself as a line item in your taxes or whatever in your accounting every year. And that's basically what it is. You've taken 10 years of learning, compressed it into a fee, and dumped it in your lap.
Mm.
So you don't have to go through that. It's not a bad deal. $5,000 a year, as an example, to own a business annually. Okay. Without having to go through the rigmarole and figuring out pricing and all that stuff. It's kind of nice. And remember I said system. Do you know that system's an acronym? You didn't know this.
Oh, do tell. Oh my gosh. What?
So, okay.
Let's go, Fred.
Alert. System saves you significant time, energy, and money. System.
It's changed my life.
Okay. So, but of course, the franchise, why do they exist? Well, because they exist for the royalty. People think, oh, they sell you a franchise and then they leave you alone and that's how they make their money. Nah, they don't really make a lot of money on the franchise fee. They make money on you being successful and them taking a cut. And people can argue, okay, is that a good deal, a bad deal, whatever? Okay, that's for you to decide if and when you look at franchising as a possibility. But at the end of the day, if you look at how it works, you're still getting the lion's share of the revenue for which you choose how to spend, because some of you see royalties like 5% of the gross, 7%. The more remote it is, the bigger cut they take because they actually have more infrastructure than you do. But you might have a lower gross margin than for after royalty than some brick and mortar business, but you also don't have to cover the brick and mortar, and maybe you don't have employees and you don't have a lot of cost of goods sold. So your overhead's light, your asset light. So your royalty might be higher. At the end of the day, someone's getting their money someplace. But if you can see a business that can have a 15 to 20% EBITDA, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, that's typically a way of saying that's your take-home money. I think most people would agree that a 25% margin of EBITDA is really a successful business. And so it doesn't really matter where it came out, whether it went to royalty or machinery or employees or equipment, whatever. If you can have a 15 to 25% net margin, that's pretty good as a business. Whether that's enough based on the volume is another question. But that's where, a franchise is nice because, again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Someone's invented it for you. You just have to see if you can meet 3 qualifications. And I always tell this to my clients. This is how we decide these things. And it's the same decision you make when you're evaluating a job, but it's just different. I'll explain kind of another analogy in a minute. The first question we have to ask if we're looking at franchising or any business, is there a universe that exists so I can make the money I want? That's it. But we need to explore that universe. We need to really do the due diligence. We can't just look at it from afar and say, yeah, I don't think so. We need to talk to people who've done it. How long did it take them to get there? How many hours a week did they have to put in to get to that level? Did they have to buy multiple locations? So let's take a Subway, for example, that, if I want to get, I've heard that the margins in a Subway is maybe $40,000 a store. That's not a lot, but if you own 10 stores, and actually because of scale, maybe you're hitting $500,000 in your pocket. So that can be useful. And that's good to know. So there's a universe that exists. If you want to make $500,000, there is a universe that exists. We'll use the Subway example where you can make $500,000. Okay, great. You now know what it takes. Now, what's your lifestyle look like that? Is that 80 hours a week? Is that 120 hours a week? Is that, 60 hours a week? Is it 30 hours a week? I don't know. But if we figured out, yes, we can make the money we want, our next question is, can we have the lifestyle we want? If the answer to that is yes, then we go to the next question, which is, can I do the job? And will I do it? Pretty basic. The answer to that is yes. Then we concern ourselves with the investment level. Because if the answer to any of those things was no, it could be $20 and you're not doing it. You'd just be lighting that Jackson on fire, right? That was a key point in my career as a coach, because a lot of people would get wound up around the axle on the investment. They'd be obsessing over it. This costs a lot of money. This costs a lot. This is a $50,000 franchise. Oh my gosh, it's my first year in business, $150,000. I don't know I can do it. Hold on a second. We're not doing anything. We're just looking to see if it's possible. And if it's not, well, okay, then you're not doing it. Don't worry. You didn't spend the money. There's no ring on it. Right? No one's getting married here. We're speed dating. And by the way, how's that job search working out for you? What do you ask yourself when you look at a job? How much money are you going to pay me? But do you consider, okay, what's the net on that? How many people can you talk to in the business? Hey, how much money do you really make? You don't have that choice. They're not going to let you talk to the employees. Franchise, yeah. Hey, go talk to Franchise Joe. Ask him how much money you made last year. He can tell you whatever he wants. Call the First Amendment. The franchise can't tell you that, by the way. They're not allowed to. But when you went and interviewed for a job, you got to talk to the owner, maybe, or the manager, but you never got to talk to the people on the ground. Kenzie, can we pause for 1 second? Yep. So there's that. So that's what I try to coach people through is like, let's just focus on the learning. Let's assume you're not going to do any of these things. Let's find out things that we like about these businesses. Let's take this from a very clinical standpoint, not an emotional standpoint, not a sales standpoint. Let's just educate ourselves, learn a couple things. And then my job is to guide and say, okay, is that something you learned or is that something you felt? Oh, it's something you felt. Okay, what are some questions we can ask to find out if that's true or not? How can we turn that light switch on? Because right now we're just on, we think something's under the bed and the light's out. Let's turn that light switch on and see if we look under the bed, if what you're thinking is actually true or not. And we do that by talking to actual franchisees in the space, see what their experience is. The owner talks a good game about how much support they give the franchise. And you talk to the franchisees, they're like, not what I had expected. I had to do a lot on my own. Okay. Franchise fee, not really worth it. Right? Or, oh my gosh, the support's amazing. It's definitely worth it. Absolutely. Would do it again. Oh, good deal. There it is. I mean, my own franchise. So my business is a franchise. We have a really high training fee. I say high relative to other businesses that are in this space. We have a pretty significant franchise fee because we're remote. And so there's a lot of infrastructure set up that they have to do on our behalf. Whatever. They have their reasons. The fee is what it is. But then they have this training fee. And I'm like, that's obscene. I only go for a week of training. What's going on? Oh, no. I have a meeting with my coach every week for 10 years if I want it. I have a peer group coaching session once a week, every week for 10 years. So you do the math on that. It ends up being less than $50 a week for out for 2 hours of coaching. And I'm going to guess you're a coach. You're a trainer. Are you charging $50 a week for that?
Oh, no. No, that I would never. I mean, I maybe once upon a time, but
so saves you significant time, energy, and money. Part of the system. So that's what you have to look at when you're looking at franchises. What value are you getting out of the franchise? The people are like, well, I have to pay this much for marketing and this much for the system and this much. Like, what would that cost you if you did it on your own? So I use a thing called LinkedIn Recruiter. I think it costs anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a year. But as a member of the Entrepreneur Source, I pay $98 a month,
Hmm.
which would be what, less than 1,200?
Mm-hmm.
It's probably 1,100, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's an 80% discount on a fee that I would need to otherwise replicate what I'm doing.
Mm.
Saves me significant time and energy.
Mm.
So worth it.
Worth it. So well said. I think too, because I'm not a franchise, haven't done
Yeah.
that route.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've learned this, just over a year in now of being on my own and just jumping in, ready to go. It's going to cost no matter what. Like it's going to cost money. It's going to cost time. It's going to cost emotional capacity. Like
Yep.
I'm getting to a place now where I'm like, okay, this is just my journey. I won't dive into that here, but just
Yeah.
like, okay, like, okay, if someone doesn't go a franchise route, maybe pay that fee.
Right. Right.
You're probably going to want to hire a coach or someone helping you with your systems if you are just doing it fully on your own,
Right.
unless you grew up in the business and were the operator
Correct.
and saw it all forever,
Yeah.
but not everyone has that. Like,
Right.
so anyways, I love how you're reframing this because I think our society still, so I think we've transitioned a lot from like, say, the college education, and to each their own if they decide to do that. But like, I don't think a lot of people evaluate that, or at least didn't, 5, 10, 15 years ago. Of, well, if I spend 50 grand on a degree, there's no money for at least 4 years from this. No guarantee versus, say, a franchise, you have it laid out and you can talk to someone getting a return on that. Like it just makes sense. So
Yeah.
you laid it out very well. That's so
Yeah.
good.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I think the question originally was, people who don't want to go into that. I have a client who was a sales type person, and she's a coach in her job, and so she's just taking that and doing it. I see, basically for her, it's like, why would you want to do that just to one company when you could do it to dozens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So same with you. Like if you were working, in HR or something and coaching internal employees, well, you'd be limited by only those employees. But now you're taking your skills and your talent and you're taking the training wheels off. Corporate trained you, great. They gave you lots of assets. You got to see certain things, etc. You get to parlay that. You take the training wheels off. Now you're on your own bike. Now your bike as an independent business owner is a racing bike. It's got really thin wheels. The balance is not as easy, but boy, you can go fast. Right. And you can stop quickly because you got premier, high end, high quality pieces. Right. But the seat's uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh.
But some people like the cruiser, right? And maybe it's the trike with the big padded seat. That's what my mom's driving around. She's got the basket. She's 85. She tools around in the retirement community. She's fantastic.
What a gal.
And that's very stable, but it isn't going anywhere very fast, right? So everyone's different in how their risk tolerance, their abilities, etc. Some franchises are newer. They've got actually a lot of support because they're really hungry to make you successful, but their systems aren't as proven over time. But maybe you're the type of person who says, I want to influence those systems. You've got a startup mentality. So that's actually a great avenue. You've got enough system to get you started quickly, up and running, a little plug and play. But now you can drive. So maybe that's like your mountain bike, right? Others have been around a long time, and it's like, hey, can I do that? No, you can't do that, and just do that. Some people like that. They're like, okay. So for those people I talked to you about before, it's like, tell me what to do and I'll go do it. But they have had enough and they want to do that's the type of business that they would be good in, where they don't have to think too much. They just plug and play, follow the script, do it. They'll be very successful. They just may not, that is a better fit. The other person, if you put them in that, they'd be successful too, but there'd be no joy because they're not motivated by completing tasks. They're motivated by creating more. So that's where, remember when I talked about, we go about what makes you tick, what motivates you. That helps me understand if they were to be in business ownership, which path are they more likely to take. But I will take, so that client that was the consultant though, I did offer, she didn't end up taking me up on it. She's going to be fine. But if I have that person who's like, hey, I've kind of started my own business, I say, hey, great, let's compare that to, you're just starting. Let's compare that maybe to some franchises that are plug and play, because what that will do is that will reveal one of two things. A, not only am I on the right track, but I'm really on the right, because the alternatives are not going to get me where I want to go. So now I have an active comparator. The other thing that you might learn some things like, ooh, didn't think of that. I'm going to incorporate that into my business, right? So maybe you steal a little. It's an idea. It's not really IP. It's just something you didn't think of.
Oh, yeah.
And then the third one is, I like my business. I can't get there as fast as I want. This is a better path. And I'm glad I looked at it. In 0 situations did you lose by going through that. Now, she didn't. She's going to be fine. She's really high on the disc, on the D. She's like a 92. So she's like, she is,
yeah, girls going to get it done.
she's just fire. There's no ready or aim. She's just fire.
I can
So
appreciate those kind of people.
yeah,
Yeah.
but she's a great lady and fun to work with.
Mm.
And frankly, she knew what she wanted and she didn't drag it out. She's like, you know what? This she knew very quickly that she didn't need me anymore. And I'm like, hey, that's
Yeah. A high
fine.
D, that's makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's so good. I mean, I built a direct sales business for 10 years. So
Mhm.
that was, in a sense, one could argue
Yeah.
somewhat franchise-esque because you
Yeah.
have a system and,
Yeah.
I didn't make the products, right?
Right.
So
Right.
we had an incredible world-class training
Yep.
system, like
Yep.
more than, you could ever ask for. And I still love that company today. It just part of why I know I'm on the path that I need to be is like and same with the job. I did not have I had a bad attitude at some jobs looking back. I was like, wow, yeah, I am definitely an entrepreneur. But to that point, I didn't have a Fred to walk me through that. Like
Yeah.
that was just like, I mean, I had other people and things that happened that helped, no question. But this actually leads, how can someone get in contact with you, Fred, to,
Yeah.
if they're in the spot, what you're saying is resonating and they're like, I just need someone to help me figure it out so I'm not on my own.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
do they go to find you?
So a couple things. One, I always encourage people to go to my website because there's lots of resources there that may get the juices flowing or give you a better idea of what I do and how I
Mhm.
do it. I think it's so the answer to the question. So the website is F as in Fred, Webster as in Webster, .esourcecoach.com.
Mm.
Okay. You can book an appointment with me there, but I encourage you to go through there and see kind of what the journey looks like, etc. I think what sets me apart maybe a little bit more from some of my coach colleagues is yes, I love it when people get into franchising. That's where my paycheck comes from.
Mm.
But as I said before, what did I say before?
Mm.
It doesn't matter to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? I really want you to get clarity. 80% of my clients do not go into business ownership. Okay. I still work with them. So I don't want people to be afraid that I'm trying to sell something or push something on them. I mean, again, full disclosure, that's where my bread and butter is. But I was in the healthcare business. I worked with surgeons. Surgeons get paid when they cut people open. But an honest surgeon will tell you 10% of his patients are surgical candidates. They got to work them up. They do lab tests. They do x-rays. They do imaging. They do all of that stuff to make sure that there's actual pathology that needs to be solved. And that the surgery will actually leave you better than when you came in. Sometimes that's not the case, but they still see him in the office. They still talk to him about their options, their possibilities. You could do this, you could do that, you could do this. That's what we're here for. We're going to do those consults, and those consults cost you $0. So why not explore, learn, and then choose to own your career rather than be owned by it? You can't lose. So
So good. And then one of many reasons why I wanted to have you on is because I know that's how you operate and you get it, like how money flows. Like there's abundant amount of financial resources out there. And when your heart's right and you serve people, it's going to come. Like that is just how it works and you live by that. And so I think it just can help lower the barrier for people if they're just like, just book it, man. Like just chat with Fred.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah. Yeah.
I love what I do because I love meeting new people. I love seeing the aha. I love the interaction. And as we know, I love to talk. So there's a lot of cup filling for me, even if that's, again, you don't become a revenue producing client. I still get that fill. And referrals are always great. So if it's not right for you, maybe your cousin Jimmy or Susie or whoever is really interested in that. Maybe that happens for them. That happened with a client of mine. It wasn't for her, but she knew somebody. She referred me to her good friend. He did end up becoming a business owner. Beautiful. And I sent her a nice gift card for dinner. And now actually she's looking at it again because she's like, well, wait a minute, he did it. Why can't I do it? So again, timing, whatever, maybe not now. If not now, maybe later. Who knows? I don't know. I treat everybody the same. It's all good to be with.
No, it's so good. And yeah, share this episode, right? I can almost guarantee that 80% or more people listening to this either are that person or know that person, right? So sharing this and getting the word out. And I'll say this too, when people, like when you're at a restaurant and someone goes above and beyond in their service and you know that they just want you to enjoy your time, enjoy the meal, that, it tastes right, like everything, you get pumped to tip them. I'm gonna go above and beyond. And that's essentially like kind of how you operate of like, I'm here to serve you.
Right.
And when you do that, and if say someone does work out, like who wouldn't want you to get a return for that? Right. Anyway, so I love that. And Fred, I could talk to you for hours and hours. It's so good. I know. So with all that being said, though, yes, we'll link it to where people can find you, your website, and I know you're on LinkedIn and everything. So a few finisher questions for you that I like to ask everyone.
Please, yes. Yes.
So just whatever comes to mind. But what is your favorite travel destination and why?
Well, I think I always answer. I really love Costa Rica.
Mm,
Part of that is we went there before we had kids, and we really just had an enjoyable time. Our friends were working at the consulate in San Jose, so they
mm,
were the ultimate hosts, and we kind of used them as a home base. Then we would go out from there. We went to the north to the Arenal volcano.
mm,
We went to a place called Manuel Antonio in Capos, which is on the west coast, and then we went to the very, very tip of the Osa Peninsula, which
mm,
is like as far south as you can get. If you look at Costa Rica, there's two peninsulas that kind of shoot off like this, and it's the lower one. And we went off the tip of that at a place called Bosque del Cabo, which is it's an environmental preserve almost that is all. It's an eco-friendly lodge. It's all like solar powered, etc. Primary rainforest, so it's never been touched, and just absolutely fantastic. So yeah, those are and there was just something special about it that we couldn't replicate. You ever done that awesome trip and you're like, let's do it again? You go back the next time and it's just not the same. We went back with the
mhm,
kids and it wasn't quite the same because we didn't do the same things. I think if we had
mm,
just replicated the vacation, stayed in the places where we had stayed, it would have been fun. But we did an Airbnb and just kind of
mm,
meandered, and it just didn't meander the
mm,
same. But
mm,
it's still amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful place, Costa Rica.
mm.
I have places I want to go, and so that may change. There's a bucket list, but
Yeah,
Costa
I
Rica.
love it. I love it. Thanks for describing it too.
Yeah.
I've been to a different part of Costa Rica and it was a quick trip, biological dentist appointment. So I makes me want to go to that part of Costa Rica.
Yeah.
But okay, this is kind of a funny question. If you could pick one song that represented the soundtrack of your life,
Uh-huh.
what would that song
Interesting.
be?
I don't know if I can get it down to one, but I'm going to start with Where the Streets Have No Name. Just that is like by U2.
Mhm.
The intro and the ramp up, it's slow and kind of quiet, and then it just kicks. And you've got the drum, and you can imagine the video where they're on the rooftop in LA and they're cranking it out. And it just, I don't know, it gets me a lump in my throat thinking about it because it's nostalgic, it's inspirational. You want to like it's the song that you turn on in your car and you crank down the windows and you want everybody to hear you blaring it.
Mm,
It's just inspirational. And I'd like to say that that's kind of, I feel that passionately about my work. That's
mm.
I have to tone it down because it's offensive otherwise. I have to roll those windows up and maybe just it vibrates through the glass. The other one though that always gets me it's called I Lived, and it's by One Republic.
That's my song too. Sorry, keep going.
And that I want that. I'm sorry, it just gets me every time I
Hmm.
hear it because it was played at my good friend of mine's funeral. But
Mm,
with every broken bone, I know I've lived, as
mm,
is the refrain, and it's the same thing. You can just belt that out, and you can belt it out through tears. So that's got to be. I want that at the end.
mm, mm.
So way to bring the melancholy down at the end of this.
It's beautiful. I think it just shows a lot about a person, and music moves you, and so
And it
yeah,
puts you back, and it puts you back to a time.
yes,
Music and smell and taste.
yeah.
Like yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, no, you're good. Well, I was saying it's funny because the next question
Yeah.
is, do you recall the last time that you laughed so hard that you cried,
Oh,
or just couldn't stop laughing that you're like just it was uncontrollable
you
and just
know, people are gonna get they're gonna not share this because of this. But when I went to see, this is a long time ago, and this is the last time I remember. I'm sure there's been other times, but this sticks out. Will always stick
Mm.
out. Both the South Park movie, the original one,
Hmm.
and Team America World Police. Just the irreverence. I literally was in pain after watching both those movies because I laughed so hard. I could not believe they said the things they said. And again, I felt awful laughing at half of them. But if anyone was being honest, they laughed too. And you look back, and and yet there's wisdom in their
Mm,
very obscure comedy that you just can't deny if you're being honest with
mm,
yourself. And it may not rub you, and it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on either, because it may rub you one way wrong or the
mm,
other, but they nail it. And I was in pain. I saw it with a friend both times, and it was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this film made it to screen, and I've never laughed so hard in my life. So yeah, that was a long time ago, but those are the
wow.
two that are the most memorable for sure.
Wow. Fred, I think, and teach their own if they feel that way of not sharing it.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that because you're just a real dude and you're like, hey, this is like how it is. I actually haven't seen those, so thank you because I love a good laugh.
Got
So
it. Prepare. There is no one spared. No
okay.
one.
Okay.
No one
I'm
at
kind of
all.
excited and nervous.
Yeah. So
Okay.
leave your sensibilities at the door. Like
Okay.
if you come out and say, Fred, I was offended. Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
you were. I
Yeah.
100% know you were. And if you aren't, there's something wrong with you.
Okay.
But remember, offense is taken, not given. You
Mm,
choose. You choose what to do with
mm,
it.
that's a good
So
one. My
there you go.
God.
Yep.
Okay, so good. Okay, last question, and I'm just going through the emotions here, right?
Yep. Yep.
I'm going to set the stage for this one, and this is your world-changing stage.
Okay.
So if you imagine that you have the entire world listening to you,
Mm-hmm.
you're standing, you have the podium, the mic, and you can share with them one message
Mm-hmm.
that would make an impact in their lives, what would
Mm-hmm.
that message be?
The message is you own your time. You're the only one that does. It is the only finite resource, truly finite, that you have. It will end for you someday. So when you find yourself saying, I just don't have the time,
Mm.
baloney. You've chosen not to do something with that time and instead do something else. Own it. Own your decision. Don't lie to yourself. Who made your calendar? You did. You chose to go to Pilates instead of going to the park. You chose to sit on your tuchus and watch the Madison, which is a great show, by the way, versus going for a run. Okay. You did that. Same thing with money. You chose to spend your money on things or experiences or to save it. Okay. Don't tell me I can't afford it or that's too expensive. Those are subjective things that you've chosen to make. Own it. Say, you know what? I'm not making that purchase a priority right now. Or I'm spending my money on travel, not on skincare. But don't sit here and say, well, I don't have money for that. Baloney. Own your decisions. Don't be a victim to your calendar, to your choices, to make yourself look like, to not make someone not feel bad. Hey, do you want to go to the movies? No. Oh, you're doing something else? I just don't like to go to the movies. We could do something else. But be like, oh no, I can't. Own your stuff. You'll be better for it. Ownership mindset. That's it.
Boom. That's gold. Gold, gold, gold. Fred, you are a world changer, my friend. I am
Thank you.
so glad that you have found this role and found this calling for your life because I believe in entrepreneurship. I believe in business ownership. And to have someone like you help navigate a transition like that I mean, to me, it's coveted. Like it's so important and so special, and to also help people navigate if that's not the right move for them, but
Yeah.
to be that person and you're like, you can just tell you're walking in your lane, and it's palpable. And so thank you for your
Yeah.
time. Thank you for your
Thank you.
wisdom.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely.
It's great. I'm so glad we met. You were a breath of fresh air, and it's awesome to meet entrepreneurs who have taken the leap in various forms, like you have, whether it was direct sales or coaching, or I mean, the world changing that you're doing. I mean, I got to figure out a way to. Again, I'm choosing to not do as much travel as Kenzie is, right? That's not my lane right now. But someday maybe I will choose to make the time to travel with Kenzie and change the world with her. So there we go.
Oh, do you imagine how much fun we'd have? Yeah, bring your wife, bring the
Yeah,
fam. Like, oh my
absolutely.
gosh,
Yep.
be the best. So cool. Wow. Well, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Reminder, share this, reach out to Fred. If something hit your soul, which I would be shocked if it didn't, book a time with him. Have a conversation. He's just a good guy to know, right? Just a good guy to know. And if you've ever asked that question of, is there more for me? What would that look like? Just get some answers, right? Get some clarity. Owe it to yourself to just not let that voice play without moving forward. And Fred's going to help you do that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Much love. Everyone
Thank
have a
you.
great day, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, everyone.